Hi, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Indies. This is actually a Go Indie Now show that is always hosted by Joe Compton, but he is off being an official member of the press for Slamdance, which is an indie film festival. And he's going to come back with some amazing interviews. He's already met up with Heidi Angel, who many of you may already know, and they've probably recorded something really cool. So I'm excited for Joe. We're all excited for Joe, and he may be popping in here later. But in the meantime, we're going to have our panelists who are here tonight introduce themselves, and we're going to do something. We're going to do this the way Joe always does, talk about news. We're going to have a movie review, a book review, and then we're also going to hear some really good writing advice. So let's start off with each person introducing themselves. Let's start with JB.
Hi, I'm JB Taylor, author of John Arthur, a comedy, and Discovery, science fiction story. I have a YouTube page. It's called Taylor Talks. I review books and films and occasionally just rant about flat earthers. And that's about it. I'm happy to be here. Stoked.
Great, thanks. And next, I'm just reading from the bottom, is Kristina.
Hi guys, I'm Kristina Rienzi, a suspense author. I write in all genres. I've published in paranormal, mystery, thriller, sci-fi, and currently working on a sci-fi thriller now. I'm also president of Sisters in Crime Central Jersey, great organization. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Kristy.
I'm glad you're able to make it. And finally, Anais.
Hello, I'm Anais, and I am an author of young adult novels as well as poetry so far. And I also have a YouTube channel, anaisbelieve, that I've been doing for quite some time. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up as well. Wow, there it is. I have gnomes.
They're really important, guys. Don't forget them.
Super important.
And I'm your host tonight. I am Kristina Estrada. I'm the author of the Dark Victoriana collection, which is book 1, Anatomy of a Darkened Heart, book 2, Lock and Key. And this is my main channel. And this is where I share live streams, where I go live every Sunday at 2 o'clock Eastern time to give you writing advice, just have a chat with you, share some writing news, stuff like that. And I'm also the host of The Writer's Edge, and you can find that at youtube.com/The Writer's Edge Show. It's also on Facebook, and we have our own website, thewritersedgeshow.com. So I'm really excited to be stepping in for Joe tonight. We're going to do this, like I said, exactly as he would do it. So let's jump right into the news. Tonight, all of our links are down below in the description box if you want to check them out afterwards. But of course, I'll tell you basically what we are talking about. The first article is Facebook. It's called The Facebook Apocalypse Just Hit, But Don't Freak Out, which is a great title. And basically the idea is that Facebook has once again changed their algorithm to put pages and groups at the bottom of your news feed if you see them at all. And so this is, of course, really upsetting to anybody who has a page. So essentially, if you have any kind of business or if you're an author at all, this can be really disappointing. And there are a lot of groups and pages that we want to see, but we don't really seem to have any control over whether they're going to show up at the top or not anymore. So one of the things that I want to say before I open it up to everyone is that this particular article says, and this is a quote, "The days of organic reach are over, and Facebook is now a pay-to-play platform for publishers." And that's why they're saying, don't freak out. But of course, you'd have to have the money to dedicate to that, right? So what do we think of Facebook's latest interesting move, especially since they themselves said that they're going to be losing billions of dollars on this?
I don't think they probably are going to lose billions of dollars on this. I'm just going to put that out there, first of all. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it because they have shareholders and everything else that they have to answer to. A lot of the new social media that has come out that started small, where, you know, people who didn't come from money or connections or privilege were able in the very beginning to find a platform and to put themselves out there without having these gigantic hoops to, you know, kind of go through. But as time goes on, more and more celebrities have children, and then their children they want to support. And I know every parent wants their kid to succeed, I guess, but the fact of the matter is that now they're going to have their kid pushed instead of somebody else who might be just as talented or anything else, but it's not going to happen if you don't have the money. And that's just the way that society works. So unless you get really lucky, I don't know. Maybe I'm more cynical about it because it just kind of ties in with the whole income inequality movement, where you see the rich taking more and more and more. That's all I'm going to say right now.
I'm going to jump in. And, you know, I don't know if this is good or bad. I guess we'll see over time. And part of me was sort of, from a business standpoint, I was sort of proud of them for taking the stance they took, in the sense that this is a social media platform and we're supposed to be there to make friends and to get to know each other and to interact with our family and friends. And I think there has been a huge influx of advertisements, you know, from all different, not just, you know, from the small business owners, which I think that's how we pretty much, I consider us small business owners for the most part. We're entrepreneurs, right? Authorpreneurs. That's how we connect. And I think that, you know, isn't overwhelming. It's when you get the bigger businesses and the aided by it. So I get where they're coming from a business standpoint. And I'm, like I said, I'm sort of proud of them for saying, you know what, this wasn't our intention, and we're going to go back to what we said we would do for you, for the general public. But when it comes to small business owners and authorpreneurs, we have to be creative, which thankfully we are. That's why we write. And I think we're just going to have to shift our perspective. You know, my Facebook page, you know, no matter how many likes you get, the interaction is so low. And I've seen over times that it's, you know, it's getting lower and lower. And the more you pay, you know, you buy an ad and you pay for something, yeah, your engagement goes up, but nowhere near what it would do on a profile page. And so I think that the Facebook pages are, yeah, they're going to eventually, I mean, I predict they'll probably end up becoming obsolete because people are just going to, you know, not be engaging as much because they're taking that away. On the flip side, though, I happen to have a reader group that I try to engage with on a daily. I hope that will increase. In other words, group wise, and people will join groups they want to be a part of and, you know, get involved. And so even with a smaller, this is what I have on my page, there are relationships being built. And I feel like that's like a really strong part of us in this community, is focusing on building relationships with readers and with people who are interested in our books. So hopefully with the pages kind of disappearing into a black hole, you know, authors maybe will, you know, start reader groups, and, you know, readers will join, and there will be relationships, and, you know, all the people in our groups as of today see everything. So, and then we can have our profiles for our interactions. And I know, you know, Christy and I are friends on Facebook as well as outside of Facebook, and you can attest to this as well. It's like you do build relationships with authors and non-authors on your Facebook profile that extend beyond and never may touch on, you know, selling a book or anything we do. But I have had so many people private message me and go, oh my God, I didn't know you were an author. Like, we talked for, you know, 6 months on Facebook and I had no idea. So I think we're going to get pushed in a way to shift to more of the old, you know, relationship building, which I don't think it's such a bad thing. It's just right now we're going through a phase of growth and change, and it's uncomfortable. And regardless of what we have to, you know, offer in terms of, you know, financial ability to buy ads, I think if we, you know, stick together, support each other, we can, you know, we can really try to push through this and use Facebook certainly to build those relationships, which
JB, go ahead.
I see it from a more point. I don't really think it started from feeling as if they kind of lost their way. I just see it as a complete reaction to the election. Whether you think they did or they didn't, I think it has a lot to do with that. I think it's a complete over, and because Facebook was intended to be where you catch up with friends and family, that they could sort of rely on that to say, well, this is why we're doing it. It has nothing to do with anything else. I just think that's what it boils down to. They don't want you to be by any sort of outside party in 2018 and going forward, and so that's why they're changing this. And because they are the platform that they are, and they were started for a reason, they're focused back onto it. I don't think it was ever because they want you to anymore. Right? I don't think they care about that. I just think it has to do with, you know, not wanting to be blamed for any sort of influence on fake news articles, I guess. But that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, those are good points, and that is definitely what it was brought on by. Again, whether or not, you know, whatever happened, that is, they had to respond to it, and this is what they came up with. And I do agree with Anais that it is a little bit, we're seeing a shift in social media altogether, where we're seeing just like money, 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 you know, and that's so unfortunate because a lot of these platforms were really good for people who didn't have money. And along to go with Kristina's point about reader groups, Joshua Robertson is in the chat right now saying that he says, I do more in my reader group than anywhere, and groups have done better than pages for a couple years at least. So if that helps anybody out there, then that might be worth doing. And another thing to note is that on NPR today, they said that probably we're going to see a big shift in people who had pages that are no longer, their posts are no longer showing up, and so they just start putting that kind of advertising so that they can do it for free on their personal pages. So how's Facebook going to deal with that? I have no idea. But those are some of the consequences that they're going to have to try to figure out how to deal with. And if we know Facebook, it takes them a long time to deal with these things. So it'll be an interesting thing to follow for sure. So our next news topic, just moving right along, of course, feel free to interrupt me if you have something else to say, but our next news topic is YouTube, which is really taking the world by storm right now with its unfortunate news for small creators. The second article down below, as you guys will see, is YouTube unveils new monetization rules killing ad revenue for small creators. And this is a real shame because it seems to be in response to the Logan Paul incident. If you guys don't know about that, he essentially filmed somebody who had recently committed suicide, and now YouTube reacted in ways that didn't hurt him that much, but that hurt everyone else. So that's not, I mean, that's my opinion. Maybe that's what I see, because it was pretty clear to me. And the ironic thing about this is, first of all, I think you have to have, it's just to clarify, 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time within a year, which is not easy for everyone to do. Even if you make daily videos, it just doesn't always happen. That doesn't mean you don't have a strong fan base or people who are interested in what you have to say, but this is their new way of, what did they say? They said exactly, we recognize we need more safeguards in place to protect creator revenue across the YouTube ecosystem. And clearly those two things don't match up, which is a common YouTube thing where they give you one reason and what they're doing kind of contradicts it. So the ironic thing that I was mentioning to the panelists here that I'm ready to see a reaction to is, before this video even went live, YouTube had already demonetized it. I don't have any content up. How can you demonetize my video? You have no idea what's in it. There's no cursing. You have no clue what's going on. So it's just, you know, I've struggled with my channel. Every video I put up, they demonetize. I'm the cleanest channel you can find. So I'm very interested to hear what you guys think of this change. If you think it's fair, if you think from a business perspective, from our own perspectives, and how it may help or harm us as small creators.
I personally think I understand their thinking, because you have those, like in the article, you have those creepy channels that are targeting kids, and then you have like the Logan Paul stuff, and then you have has a channel, or you know, and there's some really other just bad stuff, and Logan Paul, that nitwit, he did what he did, you know. So I understand their thinking. I just don't understand their logic and its action. If you want to protect, but don't forget about, you know, good channels that are on there. I mean, like, I hope, personally, I want to say this before I forget, like, since you've been demonetized, I want to see you, like, let your hair down and drop some F-bombs. Yeah, I just think it's a complete overreaction, because they didn't have to do it the way that they did. You can protect without hurting the little people, you know, the smaller channels. It's to block certain things, but yeah, and I just don't get it. I mean, they canceled their deal with Logan Paul, but then they bring him on and they don't block his channel, but they make it harder for people who aren't filming dead people to do anything. It just, yeah, it boggles my mind why on ignoring the smaller keeps hurting for money. I mean, they have plenty of money. They can not demonetize people who are actually putting forward content. I mean, I can understand demonetizing me, because I have 53 subscribers and I review like once a month. So I kind of get that, but what Christy's doing or what Joe Compton's doing, if they're putting in the work, they're going to get, you know, constant viewers. I would think it's just, you know, if you have constant viewers, I think you should be monetized, you know. Logan Paul or Jake Paul, or I had to Google him because I didn't know who he was. So I'm old. But I think if you're doing stuff like that, you shouldn't be on YouTube. And the fact that he still is shows that YouTube doesn't care about money. I lost my train of thought a little bit, so I hope that makes sense.
It did make sense. It did.
Okay. Yeah, it's just it's on the level of terms of overreacting. With Facebook, it kind of makes sense, but not really. With YouTube, they're just two-faced about it. They said they want to help, but and it's just stupid. And demonetizing this before it even goes live just shows that they don't care. That they just don't care.
I don't know who they're protecting from me, but anyway. Yeah.
I mean, the cleanest channel I think I follow. I'm pretty sure. I mean, and I follow some pretty, but yeah. I mean, you won't even say shit on yours, which is gotta tune in for me if you like language.
What do you ladies think?
Well, I think that one of the main things that I have been seeing time and again from the bigger channels is this kind of outlandish thing that they're saying about how if you're a small channel, it's kind of your fault and you're not putting in the effort or the time. And so if you just keep working hard, then maybe one day you'll be them too. And you should have just done what they did, and, you know, stuff like that, which isn't really fair, because a lot of people have put in a lot of time and done a lot of videos and improved their quality and all of the things for years. You know, I've had a YouTube channel since 2007. So it's not necessarily that. It is just like a lot of things. It is a thing about luck. So it doesn't mean that you're not worthy or anything like that. So how I'm choosing to look at it, because all of that stuff is true and it's just kind of sad, is that it's another way to meet people. Kind of like what Kristina was saying with Facebook. You kind of have to recalibrate it in your mind. Very few people are now going to be making a living off of YouTube, and now even smaller percentage are going to be able to rise up in the ranks and become one of those people. So instead of having that kind of unrealistic goal, it's better to use it as a tool to connect to, in our case, our readers, other authors, and people like that, and get the most out of it that way. You know, watching panels, I've learned a lot from other people. So much. I've learned how to do things around my house. I've learned about formatting. I've learned about Scrivener. There is so much that I've learned through YouTube. And so if you use it as a tool and for meeting other like-minded people, or even people who are totally different views than you, which is good too, I think that that can still have value. And so it's just trying to kind of shift that, because if you're a smaller channel, you probably, I should speak just for myself instead of saying you, the global you, but for me, I never made very much money off of YouTube, if anything. I've definitely spent more making a YouTube channel than getting it back. But I have got back connections with people and information and sharing ideas. So that is a way that it has been valuable. I'm just not going to ever be somebody who probably makes a living off of YouTube. So
to piggyback off what, I think if YouTube really cared about quality content, want to, like Joe's, for instance. I mean, no one puts more time and effort show than Joe Compton. I mean, you think you'd want to seek those out and build them up instead of making it harder for them to succeed. I mean, it's just a weird place. I mean, you have shows, and then you have a show going to random places and making people feel awkward. You know, there's I can't remember his name, but there's a guy, that's all he does. He just walks around doing stupid stuff to people. 3 million followers, and he's monetized, but you have someone who's actually putting people's names up there. I mean, Joe just, he highlights authors, movie makers, music. I mean, it's just silly, the logic behind it all.
I have very little to add because I'm newer to YouTube in terms of having a channel. I've always been, you know, a viewer, and I've found tremendous value in it. You know, from like, you know, you were talking about just, you know, cooking videos or instructional videos. I mean, it's my go-to place for information because it's just, you know, the way I learn is visual. So for me, it's great. You know, I unfortunately, and I'm going to have a little bit of a, you know, me, Christy, I'm always so positive, but I'm going to have a little bit of a, I guess, cynical, if that's the word we want to use, side to this, and say that I think this is the way of, you know, our industry. I think this is the way of the world. I think this is where it's going. I think there's going to be more, it's going to be more difficult. for us to, get our name out there, get our books out there, make money. And, I don't know if you guys listen to Joanna Penn's podcast or her YouTube channel. I absolutely love her. But a lot of what she talks about and being like an entrepreneur and an author and, authorpreneur is multiple streams of income and being able to sustain your life, not just on your book sales, but on other ways bringing in your income. And there are various ways, but YouTube for some is a way. And I think, I get what they're coming from as well. They want to control. They want to control to a certain extent. And I'm hoping that this will be step one, and then maybe they will take a step back and say, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's put some controls into place where we can, we can ensure that the content we don't want to promote isn't getting that kind of attention. And then the content of people who are, who are truly supporting valuable information, we do want to support them. And, there's a huge following in the indie community. There's a huge support in the indie community. This absolutely, I know we're talking about the news and net neutrality and that here, if you guys would like to touch that topic, but this is where it's headed. The support of our network, each other, is what's going to pull us through all of these things, and we can be creative and find ways to connect with our readers and connect with, we're not going to stop doing it, but it's just going to be a little bit more difficult for the small guys. And, unfortunately, we all have to start somewhere. So, I'm curious to see where this is going to go, because it's a reaction that, have a lot of people with their mouths open, but maybe they'll tweak it. Maybe, I can try to have some confidence that this will go down the right path. I don't think everybody should, for the few people that are misusing, but that's typically how it goes. Everybody suffers, and then there comes a time where there's some tweaking and it makes sense. But right now we're going through it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I don't think we should accept it. I just absolutely think that we should accept it, and we need to start fighting. And the way that we need to fight it is through laws. Like for the neutrality and things like that, we need to start calling up all of our senators and doing things like that, because this idea that it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. Right now, I saw an article that the average American family cannot afford a $1,000 emergency. If that happens, they're ruined. Now, just think about what would be a $1,000 emergency. If one of your kids breaks his arm, that is going to be worse than a $1,000 emergency. It just, anything. So with that, it's not appropriate to do anything but fight back through government anymore, because it's absolutely out of hand. It's not okay to keep handing over more and more things to big corporations and saying, as a little guy, we're going to just take it on the chin and work harder, because we worked pretty hard. So I really think that that's something that we need to do besides supporting each other as indies, which I think is very important to do, absolutely important. But I think that it is very important to get involved politically and to try to change these laws that are making it harder for us to succeed in every facet of life.
I agree. I mean, there's always been a kind of little man versus the bigger man problem for quite a while. But personally, I think it's only going to get worse. It affects everything. It especially with what talks about. You have one emergency and you're set. I mean, my dad had and we're lucky that his job, he didn't have that. We'd be living, in be like a trailer park somewhere. Not that that's bad. He would lose his job. He would, and, he wouldn't have everything we have. And the same seems to happen everywhere. The little versus big. It's omnipresent, and it's unacceptable, regardless of whether it's about YouTube or cancer. It just, I agree. I think, fight and keep fighting.
Yeah, I think it's really great that we were able to like dig deeper on that, find another layer to it and what it means overall in general, not even just for YouTube, as you guys are saying, but overall for everyone, the direction that these things are going. And so this is a really good transition for us for little, versus big, small creators versus bigger creators. We do have one bit of really good news to share, and that is from this article, How Indie Genre Fiction Books Ebooks Are Thriving Online, which is a really exciting thing. This has a lot of quotes from Mark Coker, the CEO of Smashwords, and Joe Compton may have him on GoIndieNow at some point, so keep your eyes open for that. Before I continue with this, I just want to read you the definition of genre fiction in case anybody comes across this video who isn't too sure exactly what that means. It is also known as popular fiction, is plot-driven fictional works written with the intent of fitting into a specific literary genre in order to appeal to readers and fans already familiar with that genre. And genre fiction is usually distinguished from literary fiction. So obviously like genre mixing and stuff like that doesn't fit in here. It's really, I'm going to aim for a romance or mystery market, and that's what my book is. So the good news here is that indies are really seeming to succeed in specifically ebooks for genre fiction. And one of the quotes from this article is from Mark Coker, and he says, genre fiction is ideally suited to screen reading because it's straight narrative and easily reflowable. And one of the other things that he specifically says later on in the article is people will look for something else to read on their Kindle, and they'll just look for their favorite genre, and they'll flip there, and I guess they're finding indie authors. So this is really good news for us. And they're saying that indie authors are actually becoming, in some regards with these things, with genre fiction, more successful than traditionally published ones, which is like, wow, that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe. Welcome. We're just talking about genre fiction. We just got into this topic, so I'm excited. As Joe sets up, let me know what you guys think of that. Do you guys think that that's exactly the reason, just because people go into their Kindle and they're searching for a specific genre, or do you think there's more to it than that? What's your opinion?
I think that's a big part of it.
I think.
Yeah. Go for it. No, go for it, JB. You first.
Sorry. So, I think personally that there's a big part of it. It's trust. I mean, there was a indies weren't doing that great. But I think now that people have, I think it just boils down to trust, and people knowing what they want also. I mean, they know because of the communities that have formed because of YouTube and having these small channels that are appreciated, that these are the people that we can go at and check out and more than likely get a good story. I just think it's because of Instagram and YouTube and Facebook that trust has been built, and people know that, all indies, just because you're indie doesn't mean, you can't write. And I think people are finally grasping that. That's just my opinion.
I think that it is sometimes it is that people know what genre, especially if it's genre fiction, they have their favorites. At least for me, I have some of my favorites that are genre fiction. So I found different authors specifically because I like, for example, romantic suspense. I really enjoy that whole genre. So if I'm looking for that, I'll just look up that category And then there's tons of books. And if you're somebody who reads specifically romance, those readers read a lot. And so they'll keep reading. Me too. I'm definitely one of them, and I will read a ton of it. And then you just can keep going on and on and on through the whole section and clean up. And you don't even look if it's indie or not indie, because you're just going down the list.
And I'm going to jump in and agree with everybody. I think the readers are loyal to mystery and romance. They're vivacious readers. There's a lot of recommendations that come from, when you read one, you get recommended another, and not to mind that, the whole community is just so strong and so connected, and you have reader groups, and quite honestly, many readers aren't looking at who's publishing this. You can't even tell anymore. And if somebody's like really saying, well, I'm not going to read something because it's not published by Random House, well, they're closing off their mind to amazing stories and artists that are out there that have chosen a path that is, on an equal playing field these days, as far as I'm concerned. So I think, that even if you're trying to discern, it's hard to tell. And I think if you have a quality book with and an awesome cover and great story and writing that you spent the time on, and that you're using your creativity, and the author is worth reading. I mean, these readers are going to come back for more and more, and they're going to try others. And exactly what we're saying, like what they're finding is that it's on par, and that is difficult to tell, and that it doesn't matter because it's about entertainment and the story. And if you're into story and it's something that's important to you, and before I started writing, I started writing professionally, I was like a ridiculous reader. I read so much. I couldn't read enough. Like if I could just read all day long, I would read. And I didn't care who wrote it. Like it was, yes, I have my authors, but I love a good about the story. And anyone will tell you that no matter how they're published, by who, or whatever, it's always about the story and good writing. So it's out there, it's equal, and those two genres, and in addition to some others, there are dedicated readers that just plow through books. So it's great news, and I think we just have to keep putting our stuff out there, putting it out there to the best of writing the best story we can, and do the best work we can on our books, and get it out there, and we can get it in front of a lot of readers. It's possible. So I think this is great news, Christy, and I think that if we can focus on that too, it helps get us through the hard times.
Yeah, and I think that the subject too, that's another thing, not just the genre, but in the subject. And I saw that with my book, the Weightless one, because the subject is a young adult book about dealing with anorexia. Whenever somebody reads that, they usually are reading quite a few books on that topic. So it'll have a suggestion through Amazon of all the other books that are about that. And that's been my book that has been at the top of the charts ever since it was published, because it's with all of those other books, and maybe there aren't that many of them, and that's a shame. So, but I think that if you have a subject that somebody's looking for too, it has a big list of people that pop up under that subject in a subgenre.
Yeah, those are great points. All of those are great points. And just to cap it off, I'm going to just read you one more quote that Mark Coker said, and that is, with indies, their readers are telling the writer what they want from that individual writer now, which means indie authors can be more responsive, which is just part of this whole thing. You read something, Anais sees a really good response to the type of poetry she's writing, the types of issues she's dealing with, and she could say, hey, you know what? This is something people need, and I can just publish it instead of having to go with whatever a publisher says you should be doing, or having to wait a year until your book is published. So that's definitely part of it too. You can get more faster for the most part. So now we have Joe. How is it going, Joe? How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. I'm actually back at the hotel. I actually tried to set up at the hotel where the film festival was, and it is an absolute zoo on Main Street in Park City right now, because Slamdance opened tonight, and you could not hear yourself think. there's all kinds of music going on. Every bar had something going on, and you know, then there was a celebrity car that came down the road, and people were hooting and hollering, and it was pretty just crazy. And I didn't know if I would even get out of there with my life walking down the street. There's so many people on the street right there. So, but I'm happy to be back. So I came back to the hotel and set up here. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for doing this first off, and thanks to everybody who's here, Kristina, Anais, and JB. I really appreciate you guys stepping in and doing this. You guys, I got to listen to a little bit of it in the car, and you guys are doing really great. So don't mind me. I just I'm here as a tourist. So
a tourist in your own show. Yeah. Well, we're just about to segue into each person's segment, and of course we can all comment on, you know, what each person says. But we are going to have JB telling us about an indie movie, Anais telling us about an indie book, and we are going to have Kristina giving us some really relevant writing advice as she goes through one of her novels and some things that she has noticed that make a big difference to her. So we can get started with JB. What's the movie you're reviewing this week?
All right, it's a doozy. Polka King, and it's about a man called Jan the Wan. He was born in Poland, and he grew up in a very musical family, and he had a pretty good voice, and he wanted to be a singer, and so he decides to move to Canada. And from in this Polish community, and polka music is very big, and he didn't do polka music before. He was just kind of, and so he decides to take advantage of the market essentially, and he switches to polka music. It's he gets a nice little niche going. Nothing big, nothing that you would like write home about. It's enormous. It's everything, but he wants to be like super duper rich and super famous. And so he decides to go to America thinking, okay, I have a decent voice. I could do a polka dance and stuff. He thinks he's going to be like super famous, and it just does not work out that way at all. He's washing dishes, and he's a garbage guy, and so he eventually comes up with this. Okay, I'll have people invest in me, and which is illegal. I mean, without a license. Polish, he doesn't know this, so he's like, if you invest in me, you will get a return of 12%. And people are like, well, the bank's only giving 3%, so sure, why not? So people are giving, $130,000, $30,000 to a polka singer, thinking it's going to work out well. And it does not at all. Understand that this guy, he doesn't know our laws. He's new, so he doesn't get that what he's doing is essentially a Ponzi scheme. Oh, listen, you can't do this. This is illegal. You have to have a license for this. And so he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And so basically, it's just wacky. He gets these people to invest their life savings, like their kids' college funds, into music, into his business. And what he's doing is he's taking money from this, giving it to the new group, and then it's a big cycle. That's what a Ponzi scheme is. Instead of putting money into something, he's just recycling. Basically, it just he gets himself into it's like a snowball effect. It gets worse and worse. He winds up branching off into multiple cities. He's I think it was 400 plus people, and I think it amounted to $10 million in total that he pulled in. So yeah, the film follows him and this idiotic Ponzi scheme that somehow works, and it's his life story. It's his wife's story. It's the weirdest film I think I've seen in a long time. It was so interesting. I had to watch the documentary about it right after, and yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch it, because it's just, you would not. I knew stupid people and how dumb and greedy people could be, but it ramped it up. And people are, why would you invest in a polka singer? I don't get it. I mean, it's polka. I mean, the songs were pretty catchy. I get it, but I'm not giving the dude any money. And you would think at some point, people will go, okay, the bank, in their most generous mood, they're giving you 3%, but they really don't even want to do that. I mean, they would rather give you nothing. Someone who speaks very choppy English is like, I'm giving you all the money in the world. It just, so yeah, it's a wacky movie. What I didn't like about it was that the movie sort of spins a more sympathetic view of Jan Lewan. I didn't particularly care for that, because I think, yeah, he was ignorant to our laws, and so he didn't know what he was doing was illegal at first. He got that first warning, which, I mean, he was dealing with quite a bit of money at that point, and for the FBI to go essentially a slap on the wrist, you would think that he would go, okay, now I know the law, I'll stop, but he continued the $1 mark, and that's, I don't think you could be a sympathetic person if you continue to break the law willingly. I mean, why would you rob an old person? I mean, it's not good to rob people, period. But old, that's just douchey. But yeah, just watch it, and then watch the documentary afterwards. I just cannot believe it. Just watch it. It's amazing. It's crazy.
You've got me interested. I want to see it. Yeah. Anais, you were saying you just saw it.
I just saw it.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I could feel a little bit more sympathetic towards him, because once he had so much going, you know, and his family, and it'd be really tough. It'd be pretty tough in that situation to have somebody that, right after you get warned, the answer to a solution is to take more money from other people. And I know it's wrong and everything, but I can sympathize with why somebody would want to do it, to try to protect his family and stuff. But I still wouldn't recommend it. It's still not a good move. Still not a good move. No.
Yeah.
But that's how you
I get what you're.
The sympathetic.
Yeah, I totally get what you're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
Not the right thing to do at all.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying. I mean, what's so strange was he was definitely greedy, but he definitely at the same time put in the work. I mean, this guy was a workaholic. His wife practically his wife had to practically force him to eat. Just stop for a minute. So I think he genuinely cared. I just think that when he started rolling in, he got a bit carried away. Like with the pageant. That's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But
don't spoil that. But they also made him generous. Yeah. They did show that he was generous to his friends and family. So I think that's part of why it was such a good film. Was that it was a very complicated character. Yeah. Just like everybody in real life, they have good and they have bad, and so you have to kind of weigh it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. He was polka good and he was polka bad.
That's right. He was both.
That's really interesting. I think it's really cool that that is actually based on a true story. I can't get over that. I definitely want to see one followed by the other. I'm always interested, like how close does it stick, you know, to the actual story? But also, it's just so different. Wow, that is really interesting.
Yeah, first, because you see a lot of these films, they're saying like based on a true story, and then you Google it and you find out like 2% of it actually happened. Mind blown to find out that just about like 99% of it actually happened. I was like, holy hell! People gave money to it. A polka singer. I have to get into polka.
You have to
get some money.
Get Gogol Bordello and just jam out.
That's really great. And could you just repeat the name of it for everyone out there who wants to watch it now that you explained it? The Polka King. The Polka King. Okay.
Yeah. Did I give the name to start, or did I just jump right into it? Because I was super eager to talk about it.
No, you didn't today. I just like
I didn't go.
Yeah, once I hear something I like, then I forget what the name was. So I just want to make sure everyone heard. Thanks so much for that.
I was just making sure because.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like for like an hour and a half. I was just like jonesing like to discuss this because it's just.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that one. I'm really, that is particularly interesting. That's new to me, so I'm excited. And now we have Anais, who has an indie book review for us. So what'd you bring us tonight, Anais?
All right, so I am bringing you a book by the fabulous J.D. Estrada. Dun, dun, dun. And I read a lot of J.D. Estrada's books. In fact, my current book that I'm reading is a J.D. Estrada book. But see, that just speaks to a good writer. I'm reading through his catalog. Let's see. I am going to be talking about Black Tie Affair. And that one I thought was really awesome because there were several times where he would write a line and I had the whole experience. And this is what I recommend for this poetry book. Have the experience. So make sure that you're not going to be interrupted. Have some candles. I had whiskey. You don't have to have whiskey, but have a beverage of some sort, something nice. Yeah, the whole thing. And then I would read it, and then there'd be a line that would just stick out, smack me in the face. And I love that. I love that about his poetry. I love that about poetry in general. I'm not really somebody who likes roses are red, violets are blue, or love poetry or inspirational poetry or anything like that. So that's not this, if that's what you're looking for. But it does have things that are going to make you go, huh, yep. So one of the quotes that I particularly like, and I like them so much that I made little picture graphics of them and put the quote on it. I'll put it on my Twitter again, so if you want to see it, you can. So one of the quotes is, "You'd think hindsight would do us some good, but all it does sometimes is add glass to the kaleidoscope." And I was like, ooh, that's a good line. Because that's true. A lot of times people say, if you look back, then all will be revealed. But sometimes you look back and it's just a big mess of crap. Like, oh man. And I like that. I like that he said that. Let's see, what else? There was also, I've got several of his quotes here. I really like this line too. "Anger is a fuel, cheap to buy, costly to burn." Also true. And, you know, I think that all of those things that are true, but maybe you never heard it put that way, it can make you feel really heard and validated in a way that maybe something else can't. You know, even if you're trying to talk to somebody or maybe especially if you're trying to talk to somebody and you're just not getting your point through. But if you read a good book of poetry and somebody has been willing to put out all of their innermost thoughts and feelings and wit and humor and sorrows and joys, then it can be very powerful and make you feel a lot better. And maybe this is that much truer of somebody who is an introvert than an extrovert, because extroverts, maybe you get that just on the daily basis of communicating with people, but I'm an introvert, so I definitely appreciate when somebody can write something like that that makes you feel connected and okay with things, especially the dark stuff.
And
I really a one.
Yeah, I have that book and I really want to read it. So now I'm even more excited about it. I love the cover of it, the whole concept of it. And like hearing those quotes, those are exactly the types of things that I love reading, where you take a minute and you think about it and it really can impact you sometimes. Like I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, you didn't think about it that way. And there's a lot of lines in all of his poetry. And now I'm reading Only Human, which is a novel that he wrote that has vampires and angels and all sorts of madness in it. It's like reading a novel form of Nine Inch Nails to me, which, as somebody who enjoys Nine Inch Nails, I like the novel very much. Maybe if that's not your cup of tea, sorry about it, but but I really like it when somebody is willing to be that honest, because a lot of times they're not, or they're just going to stay at the surface level and then try to make it okay, you know. And the way that he leaves it hanging sometimes, where it's just, it didn't work out, and looking back, it still didn't work out. Oh well. It's very validating, and I like that. So that's one of my favorite poetry collections by him, although they're all fabulous. So
that's awesome. I'm really glad that you reviewed that one, because like I said, I've been meaning to read it. So I'm just all the more pumped now. And for those who don't know, JD Estrada has published a number of poetry books, a number of novels. Some of them are genre specific. Some of them are much more broad. There's really something for everyone with what JD publishes. So definitely check him out if you haven't already. He also has a really active BookTube channel, and he's super active on all of social media.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you so much.
One other thing. Sorry, I had one other one.
Yeah.
JD. Sorry. And then if you want something completely different from JD than all of that I just said, just completely different, not Nine Inch Nails at all, there's the Daydreams from the Sherbet Shore. And that one is awesome. It's like reading fairy tales. It is reading fairy tales, like very whimsical, crazy Alice in Wonderland type feeling. And I read them before going to bed, and they were fantastic. So that's all. Sorry. It was like, it's just that it's so polar opposite that it deserves a mention.
That's awesome. And I hear
it has a beautiful cover too.
Number 2.
Yeah. What's that?
It had a beautiful cover too.
Oh, it does. Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
I think his covers pretty well show you what it's going to be about, which is awesome too.
That's true. It's just such an incredible range within one person. So I felt like it was worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for reviewing it, and thanks for mentioning that too. So now we are going to go to Kristina Rienzi, who has some major writing advice for us. She's currently, I believe she said, but she'll correct me if I'm wrong, revising her novel, and she has some things for you that could make a big difference for when you go through yours. So take it away, Kristina.
Okay. So advice out there, and I think it's a matter of do what works for you. But I always try to learn from those who have gone before me and done well, and from people who read my work and have, critical feedback for me specifically. However, throughout all these processes, I find that we get stuck in a lot of noise. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And, you just, it can be very overwhelming, especially when you have a story that you care about and you're trying to make it the best it can be, and you're getting noise, as I call it, from all directions. So I think you know, for you and pick the top. That I did. You can't see it, but in front of me I have a bulletin board. It literally is plastered with postcards as well as Post-its like this, which I'll talk about in a second. Same Post-it here. My husband comes in and says, "What? Can you film? What does that mean?" Joe will understand. Can you film it? And how I go through my line by line in my book. And it's, so anyway, so I have a bunch of them, but I have my top ones, the ones that have made the biggest difference in my writing, the ones that have made me think about every word I write. And this is after the story's done, but I'm revising it, and I've done the major stuff. Like I've done the plot work, I've done the character stuff. This is just, I want to make it stronger. I want to make it mine. And I want to catch all of my errors. And sometimes, you know, people can say, "Oh, well, you're telling, you need to show." And well, I thought I was telling, but I thought I was showing, but I'm telling. So there are a lot of phrases out there and a lot of definitions. So my top ones, the things that have made the most difference for revisions are, number one is, can you film it? And by that, I mean, I was as if, can I film it? Can I film this sentence on a big screen? Or is it in the character's head? A feeling? Is it, what is it? Can I film what they're doing? And what I'll find that I'll do, and of course, there's always an appropriate place for internal monologue and thoughts and things like that. But for the most part, I want you to be active in my books. I want it to be, you to be a part of the story. So, and I ask myself that same question: can you film it? And if I can't, I rewrite it. And often I'm rewriting it, and it's adding more depth. It's adding that subtext in. It's adding in character descriptions through dialogue, through action. It makes it richer. You're not realizing it till you go through it. But that is my first thing that I do. I ask if I can film it. The next thing I'll do is it specific? Because I have a habit, and maybe a lot of just saying something without being specific. So the car, the table, the whatever. And especially when you go through your first draft. So when I go back through, very specific, and everything has, even if it's a one-word description, that I'm being very clear about. It's not just a table, it's this kind of table, So it's a silly little simple thing, but it's super helpful, and those change my story a tremendous amount. A couple of other things that have helped me, and these are all easy things to do, and that's why I'm just kind of like postcards, like real quick, easy things. We get them. Active voice, really important. I do a search on BY, and I take all of them out. I don't want anything that's not an active voice. I want and I write suspense, thriller mostly. So my stories for me are fast paced, and they need to move pretty quickly. So if it's, she was attacked by the bear, no, the bear attacked her, like something simple like that. But these are just quick little tips, and they're so easy. Well, not so easy to do, and it's your work. The next thing that I've learned through, just practice, editors, other writers, something that you don't always think of, but is there a power word at the end of look at my sentences? How are they ending? Are they ending on something strong? Is it a power word like death? Or is it a word like it? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking through them going, is there a power word? How can I rearrange it so that the sentence ends on something strong? I want the reader to feel it at the end of the sentence, the end of the paragraph. Again, little tip, quick and easy. It's like I read it. I literally hold these cards up and go, third pass through the manuscript, really helpful. And then two other things that are super helpful for me is dialogue. It has to be real. It has to be, like when you're having a conversation with somebody in real life, it's not, unilateral. Like you're having a conversation. It's not just going back and forth on the same topic, very streamlined and easy. There's interruptions. You're not saying what you really mean. So I always ask, does the dialogue have opposing scripts? If I say something, are you not answering me? You're saying something different. It creates suspense, it creates tension, it creates conflict. I just try to make sure that there's a lot of dialogue with opposing scripts or subtext. So oblique dialogue also, I think of it that way. So another way to check my work. And then another big one that I use, and this is the final one on tips before I get into like what gets me to the computer. And this is from Robert McKee's book, Story, which is a screenwriting book, but one of my favorite books on writing. And I've listened to it a million times, and it's very, very helpful. Does the scene change from positive to negative at the start to the opposite at the end? So does the scene, I want the character to be happy at the beginning of the scene, not happy at the end of the scene. Like, there has to be a change. And I'm not talking like just over the whole book. I look at every scene. I want there to be a constant change in metamorphosis that will pull the character through the story. So I look at that, and it could be subtle. Could be something very simple. She's, walking down the street. It's a sunny day. By the end, it's raining and she's drenched. Like, I don't know, but something to that effect, because there's a constant conflict change. This was a great tip that I got from Robert McKee, and I always try to keep my writing strong with that. I have a million others, but those are my top ones. The other advice I have is really more intrinsic, in that it is very hard to get to that computer and do those revisions. I know when I got them back from my editor, I took time off because I had to digest everything. And it's your story. It means so much to you. And I want it to be the best it can be. And if that means it's going to take me 3 more, that's what it's going to take. It takes what it takes. Pushing yourself to get to that seat, knowing, and my editor, I'm like, it was like so simple, but those things just like bulb goes off. He gave me permission. I'm allowed to make decisions. I can make decisions. Writing is the art of making decisions. If there's no right or wrong about your story, it's making a decision about your story, and having the ability to do that and giving yourself permission to make decisions. The other thing I don't give myself permission is trusting my gut. I always think, am I right? Am I wrong? I feel this way, but I want to check with somebody. Like, do you think this would work? And it's like, trust your gut. Don't second guess yourself. When you feel like something needs to go, cut it. When you feel like something needs to be in there, add it. Like, your story better than anything. So trust your gut. And really, I know these are simple concepts, but it's so hard to do when you're sitting behind the computer and looking at your baby and trying to make it as good as it can be. Obviously, discipline. I now am part of the 5 a.m. writers group on Twitter every single day, on the weekends, on my day off, 5 a.m. Get up. I tweet my little, I'm here, got coffee, and I get to that computer. And I have people who show up, and we all tweet each other, and we do GIFs, and we get each other excited, and then we get to work. And my brain works the best in the morning, because that's when my right brain is the most awake. My left brain is not. So it's that. And then having to do what needs to be done for the story. I tend to be somebody who is very results oriented, and I want it done. Like, I have this story, I want it written, I want it done, and I want it published, and that's that. And I have my schedule, and I'm moving through, and sometimes you just have to have patience. Sometimes the story takes longer, and it's for the better, and that's okay. And the most important thing, I think, actually is the secret to success is perseverance. That is it. I mean, there is talent, and there is talent. You can be, and you could be born and learning. I mean, it's not everybody is Ernest Hemingway. I mean, you work hard at it, and you hang in there. And I've seen so many authors who sort of disappeared. They put a bunch of books out there, they're gone. You don't even see them anymore. And the ones who hang in there, the ones who keep working at it and persevere, are the ones that do well. And that's something we can all do. We can all hang in there, and we can all persevere. So that's it. Those are my tips and tricks. Some are practical and some are more, internal. But I think they're all helpful, because we're all on the same boat when it comes to this writing thing. And anything we can do to help our is going to get that story to the end and published. So.
Those are great tips, and we're having a really good response in the chat to you as well, and a lot of people agreeing. And it's all really relevant stuff. It doesn't matter if it's a small tip or small detail or whatever. There really aren't too many small tips out there. Even if they sound general, it can be hard to apply them. So I think it's really important to hear that, from someone who's actually doing it and the impact it has on them. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's really useful. Okay, so Joe, why don't we close out the night? If you want to tell us like what kinds of interviews you've been doing today or anything like that, I would love to hear a little bit about what you're doing to close out the night.
Well, basically, I was just getting my bearings today. I went and got my badge, my lovely badge for my press credentials. So, and then I just randomly talked to a few people, and then hung out outside the hotel where the festival was, and just kind of did just some schmoozing, but nothing too heavy duty. There was a lot of people around, like I said. Sundance was starting, so a lot of people were cultivating over there, which is literally, like, I'll show you guys tomorrow, but it's literally across the street from where I am. But it's all over. Sundance spreads out, and they're 10 days long. And I found out today the reason why it's 10 days long, if anybody's really curious. But the reason it's 10 days long is because they have the SAG Awards this weekend, and all the famous people will come after the SAG Awards. So they want to make sure that they have enough time to have famous people in their town. So they bring those guys in either right before or after the award show. So the weekend is usually for the younger filmmakers and the filmmakers who aren't so famous, I guess. But tomorrow morning, if you guys all want to wake up with me, I will take you on a tour of Main Street. We'll start from where I walk from, and hopefully I don't run out of breath, because it is steep and very tall. And where the Slamdance Festival takes place is at the very, very top of the hill, of course. So I will be doing that on Facebook Live, as all of the people who are in the suggestion box group voted for. So I'm going to stay with what they voted for. And I want to mention that as well, that GoIndieNow has opened a suggestion box / think tank group. If you haven't heard about it, if you haven't seen the link, it is open to everybody and anybody. With groups, though, in Facebook, you have to add people, and I absolutely 100% refuse to do that. I do not want to add anybody without them knowing that I added them. So if you want to be added and you are wanting to be a part of the group, then I will just message me, and I will send you the link, or I'll add you, and there you go. But anyway, that's out there and open for anybody and everybody. And we talk about what we're going to talk about in This Week in Indies and all that. So you guys all have a say in how the content goes on the show. So I want to personally thank Kristina Rienzi for stepping in and doing this. She did a marvelous job. And I will, Anais and Kristina and JB, all you guys were awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm really just, I'm sorry, I'm like totally exhausted, and like all the adrenaline is starting to flow out of my body now. So now that I'm kind of decompressing, I'm like crashing really hard. But it's been exciting. It was real exciting to drive up there, to see everything. They have everything laid out. I mean, the city does a wonderful job of welcoming everybody who wants to be a part of it. And you'll see tomorrow, like I said. And then throughout the day, maybe right before the main event happens tomorrow night, I'll go back on live as well and talk. Maybe I'll have some people with me and we'll talk together. So that would be awesome. But, you can count on me being there for sure. And I'm going to take you on as much of an in-depth tour as Slamdance will allow me. I talked to them today. They're pretty open about it. So I will go behind the scenes as much as I can and show you the whole world that exists in Park City from January 18th to January 20, whatever it is, 5th or 6th or whatever. But so I'll be there, and there you go. That's basically everything that happened with me today. I'm sorry.
I'm so excited for you. I was going to say, I'm so excited. As soon as you announced on Facebook Live that you were going to be considered a member of the press, I was like, yeah. And JB's been saying, and everyone's been saying, roll out the red carpet for Joe, not the celebrities, it's Joe.
Well, I'll be on some red carpets. There'll be a couple red carpet things that I'll do interviews on. I have a spot on a couple of them, so I'm real excited for that. I will sit down with a lot of filmmakers hopefully get the organizers together. It was so crazy there because it was the first day they were opening up, and literally there was like 100 people in the lobby, and everybody was commiserating. And then it's such a small space for this festival, so it's really, when it gets really crowded in there, it gets really crowded. So, but you know, I will be doing a lot of stuff there, and I'm real excited about it. So thanks everybody for your support and love. I appreciate that. Oh, and I met Heidi Angel last night in person, which was awesome.
That's so cool. And Joe posted a preliminary picture from that too. I think it was on Facebook, right?
Yeah, and Sunday morning we'll get together again, and we'll do a live episode of Coffee Break. So we'll sit down. I'll get all my gear. We'll sit down, and we're gonna find a coffee shop near where I'm at right now, and sit down and do a live coffee break and talk for a little bit. And so we'll be live on YouTube for that. So, but otherwise, I'll be on Facebook for the majority of the time because curse you, YouTube.
I was saying earlier, Joe, that they demonetized this video before it even went live.
Well, yeah, because they're crazy. I mean, you know, don't get me started. I mean, the whole Logan Paul thing, all the way down to the dominoes that have fallen through this whole entire process. I fully believe, though, that there's been enough uproar. If you go and search YouTube monetization policy on their site, on YouTube, you'll see there's millions and millions of people complaining about it and yelling about it, and they can't kick them all off. So, because that would be insane. But you know, just be careful what you say and how you say it. But you know, be respectful of this. This is a business they are running, but still, that voice is going to be strong, and that is going to change what they do. That's the only way to change it. If they don't see it, they don't know that you have a problem. So, and that's the only way to do it. So,
that's a great point, Joe. Thank you so much. I was so glad you got to come. Okay, so we're gonna introduce again each of ourselves and tell you where you can find us, just in case you didn't catch it in the beginning. So let's go down the line, and we'll go in the same order, and stay tuned if you want to hear where you can see Joe Compton's live updates. He's gonna go last, so you have to stay tuned until he tells you. So we're gonna go in the same order. JB, how about you start?
The video went in and out. Can you repeat that?
Oh yeah. Just tell us where we can find you, JB.
Okay. I am on Amazon. Type in John Archer, a comedy / JB Taylor. Because if you don't do that, you won't find me on there, because it just writes books about carpentering or whatever it is. I don't know how to build anything, so that's not me writing that. And I am on YouTube, Taylor Talks, and I am on GoIndieNow. I actually remembered both this time around. Usually I just Joe knows what. So yeah, I do a Netflix pick of the week on one, and I'm going to start doing indie audiobooks for the other. So look for me there. And I am also on Twitter at, I forget my name because I change it all the time. I'm pretty sure you can just type in JB Taylor and you'll find me. Yeah, and I'm on Facebook. Same, just type in that name and I'm there. I'm on Instagram, but I don't remember the name either. So, you know, great. Yeah. And that's about it.
Great. And of course, as you guys know, all the links are down below for the main places where everyone is found, but you can search for them elsewhere as well. So next is Anais.
Hello, I'm Anais, and I would definitely recommend looking at those links because I have a very unique name. But you can find me pretty easily if you search for anaisbelieve, ANAIS, and then I have an Amazon page, but that is, of course, under Anais Chartschenko. And I have Twitter, YouTube, and gosh, pretty much everything. Facebook, Instagram now. Yes, I'm moving up in the world. Yeah, so come by. The tea is always hot. Definitely welcome.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And next is Kristina.
Maybe she doesn't know. Can she hear?
This is Kristina. Can you hear us?
I don't think she can.
Next on our hit list. Well, in the meantime, Joe, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Joe Compton. I run GoIndieNow, which is GoIndieNow.com. Like I said, we have our think tank and suggestion box. It's called GoIndieNow Suggestion Box and Think Tank Group. If you search for GoIndieNow suggestion, you should find it. It's pretty easy to find. But other than that, yeah, follow me on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/GoIndieNow. That's where I'll post all the live feeds from. Although if you're a friend of mine, you'll see it anyway. Hopefully, we'll see with Facebook's new policies, which I'm sure you guys talked about too. So I won't get into that either. So that's where you can find me. Yeah, great.
And like we said, you're going to be on Facebook Live, right? You said Facebook Live?
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. I think Kristina is back with us, so tell us where we can find you.
Hi, I apologize. My network is a bit of an issue. Mainly, I'm at KristinaRienzi.com. That's where everything is linked from. I am all over, everywhere, but I primarily hang out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I do have a YouTube channel that I haven't done much with, but I'm trying, so we'll see where that goes. Amazon, of course, Goodreads, and on Facebook, I have a profile, a page, and a group. So, but yeah, I'm KristinaRienzi.com, the best way to connect to all my different pages. Hope you guys reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Great. And I just want to say again, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you to everybody in the audience tonight. Thank you so much to all of the panelists. This was a lot of fun. And thanks to Joe for letting me do this. It was awesome to step in for you, Joe. They're big shoes to fill, but I give it a shot anyway. I had a really good time doing it. So I am Kristy Stratus. You can find me at KristyStratus.com. I am also on YouTube on this channel that you are watching right now. This is my author channel where I do Sunday live streams every weekend at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And you can also find me at youtube.com/The Writer's Edge Show. And that also has its own website and Facebook group. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter as well. And of course, Goodreads and Amazon. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are watching this after the fact, definitely leave comments down below what you think of these movies, these books, and all the news things that we talked about. And as you know, it's always time to go Indie now.